have with us today a singer, musician,
Yep.
comedian, stuntman, actor, and absolutely adorable gentleman. And
a veteran.
a veteran. Well,
And a
yeah,
veteran,
that was
yes.
coming after.
And an active member of Post 43
43.
in Hollywood.
Hollywood.
We have Jimmy here because we have a kind of selfish reason, Dove and I.
What is that?
Well, we love Frank Sinatra. We say love because he's never gone in our mind.
Right.
Because he's always here. I mean,
He's never gone away.
you see what I mean? Jimmy, first of all, tell us, you were a little boy. Tell us what was going on in your life with your dad when you were a little boy.
First of all, my dad was a veteran of World War II and Korea.
Wow.
And he just passed last year.
Oh, how
And
young?
he was 93.
God bless him.
Yeah. So, I mean, he
Lived his
had a
full life.
really nice life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the things, I grew up in the industry, my mother's side, we're all Italians on my mother's side.
Okay.
Emilio and Sarno. I was
Ooh.
named after Jimmy Sarno, who was a major publicist back in the 30s and the 40s.
Oh, wow.
And handled over at Paramount Studios, the Bing Crosbys, the Bob Hope, Peggy
Oh, my
Lee.
goodness.
So I grew up in the industry.
Right,
My
right.
grandfather, Frank Emilio, this is a great story, scrubbed the Yellow Brick Road for Wizard of Oz. When they moved out from New York, they came out, his first job was at MGM. That
Scrubbing
Uncle
the
Jim
road.
got him the job.
Love it.
And he scrubbed it, and he worked his way up to accounting and was doing budgets for MGM Studios. He worked at, back in those days, you could work your way up the ladder.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, Nanny, she not only was a seamstress and a beater,
Right.
she taught me how to cook. See, I love to cook.
Love it.
And
Love
that's
it.
one of my favorite things to do.
Italian cooking.
Oh, there's nothing else.
I know.
Eggplant parmigiana,
Ooh.
veal
And
parmigiana.
you know, in,
Oh.
in Boston,
Eggplant, that's my favorite.
in,
That's my
in Boston, they don't have angel hair and other, they have macaroni. I don't care what kind of pasta.
Right, they call it macaroni.
And they don't
Yeah.
have sauce. They have
Wait,
gravy.
Gravy. I was
Oh my
yeah. You
goodness.
just
Yes.
took the words right out of my mouth
That's
because it's so interesting that certain areas that if I talk to somebody back east like
Right.
Boston, they'll go gravy. I go no,
No,
sauce.
sauce. No.
Gravy. Okay, whatever.
love
I know
it.
it's the same thing.
So what did your dad do?
My dad started every morning. Before I would, I'd wake up and I always had Sinatra on in the evening to go to bed,
Wow.
and that's how I woke up. And I was bit by Frank Sinatra. I mean, I just love Nelson Riddle. I mean, amazing music. So I grew up really enjoying that
You
era.
meshed in it, yeah.
Oh yes, I mean, and I love '40s music. I love
And the resemblance. I mean,
Oh, it's scary. Well, it's a funny story. My mother, I had my fedora on. May I put it on for a
Please.
quick second? So I walked up. It was about 5 years ago. My mother's still here. She's 93.
God bless her.
So I walk up to the door, and I open the door, and my mother's standing. And she goes, "Oh my God, you do look like Frank." She goes, I danced with Frank. And I said, "Mom, what does that mean?"
Yeah.
Is that a little, okay, I explain it to Dad.
Yeah.
I have no problem with it. So we grew up around the whole thing at MGM Studios and restaurants back in the day in Hollywood, was Beverly Hills,
the Brown Derby.
Brown Derby, Chasen's,
Right,
Jason's,
Jason.
which is going to segue into how I met Frank Sinatra for
Okay.
the first time.
Go ahead.
I met Frank Sinatra at Chasen's restaurant when I was 16 years old.
Wow, how'd that happen?
Well, my mother and father, we had kind of a tradition of going to Chasen's on Sunday nights. That was kind of our thing. And me, as you can see, I'm kind of a, outward person, personality-wise. And I'm not shy, so I would go up to all the celebrities. I met Jimmy Stewart. I got a great story about him. And anyway, so we'd go there every Sunday night. And I asked my dad, I had a real crush on a gal at Palisades High School named Nancy. And I said, I want to take her to Chasen's. I'll wax the caddy. Now, you're talking a 1971 Coupe de Ville caddy. That's a big car.
yeah.
That's two
huge.
cars.
It's like, it's two cars today. Right. It's got real bumpers. It's chrome. I
Right.
mean, it's the real thing, right? And my dad went, okay. And so I take Nancy to Chasen's. And and Ronnie, the maitre d', God bless him, he just passed a few years ago. I knew everybody. Peppy, the bartender, they all knew me, and they all knew what I was up to,
Right.
trying to impress Nancy. So we have this booth, it was great old red booths at Chasen. And the booth faced the bar, a big oval bar. And so when you're facing, you see the backs of people. So there's two gentlemen with their backs to me. So I look at Nancy. I said, I got to go to the restroom. I'll be right back. So I get up, and as soon as I get up, I bump into two guys. Their backs. And they turn around. It's Kirk Douglas and Frank Sinatra. I kind of went like a Jesus moment. It was like, and I started bowing and getting, and they start cracking up. And he just, and he went, "Okay, kid, that's all right. Don't worry about it." I said, "Mr. Sinatra, I'm trying to impress Nancy." And, and he does this. He just kind of pushes me out of the way, and he goes, "If I don't see her each day, I miss her. Gee, what a thrill each time I kiss her." Okay, kid, you're up. True. I mean, it was amazing.
I love it.
The beauty of being in Hollywood and growing up, my dad was, we were devout Roman Catholics, of course.
Okay.
And every Easter break, every Easter 2 weeks, we went to Vegas. And when we went to Vegas in the 1960s, when Vegas was Vegas, right?
When the shrimp was like that.
Yeah, well, people dressed up. You didn't go out. You wore a suit.
Right,
When you went to see the show. And of course, my dad would do this, with the $100 bill like that, so we'd get ringside. So I got to see the Rat Pack. I saw Nat King Cole, Donald O'Connor. Donald O'Connor was so cool because, as I said, my dad would take us to Vegas during the Easter breaks.
In the good times.
In the good times when everybody dressed up.
Right.
And Donald was performing, and he would do this hat bit where he would take the hat and he would toss it to people, and the person would catch it, and then he said, he'd point to, try to throw it on his head. He sees this little kid in a suit, so he does the hat routine from Singing in the Rain.
Right.
So he tosses me the hat, and then he's pointing try to toss it on his head. So I kept tossing it on his head, kept tossing, and I kept rimming his head. So what happened was that he kept getting closer each time. And as soon as he got as close to me like you are right now, I took the hat and I just jammed it on his head, which looked like the part from Singing in the Rain where he's doing the whole shtick with running around. Yeah. And then I met him years later. And Donald was at this one charity event that I was doing, and I looked at him and he saw my performance and he goes, "Oh, you were really great, blah blah blah." Right. And I said, "Thank you." I said, "You're not gonna probably remember me." I was like 10. And he says, "What?" And I said, I did the hat routine with," and he went, No, I do remember that because it was the only one time he ever really did a kid. Usually he would get, an adult to do it. Well, there's not a lot of kids wouldn't go to Vegas. I mean, back then, it was a rarity if you saw somebody my age at 10 years old going into a showroom. Right. But that's my dad would
in a suit.
In a suit. In a suit. In a nice suit.
Yeah. So wait a minute. So now back to where I read that you were doing magician work.
Right.
And you started to learn how to do that.
Well, magic, I was doing I got bit by the bug of magic by the movie Houdini with Tony Curtis.
Okay.
Yes, Tony Curtis. I love Tony Curtis. He's a wonderful man. I got to meet him years later in a thing at the Magic Castle. And I kept saying, "No, I'm Spartacus." And he goes, "No, I'm Spartacus." And I have this wonderful poster sign. It says to Jimmy, "I'm Spartacus, Bernie Schwartz, Tony." And sweet guy. And so, but it inspired me to do the Houdini act. Right. And I was doing the straitjacket escape in Vegas.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No, 1971. I was hanging upside down on a crane, the monorail that goes around the casino.
Right, which one?
The Circus, the original Circus,
right.
Where they had the acts. My audition was, I went out there, Scott Franklin was my buddy, that was from high school, that was my assistant, and he would tie me up, and so I did this thing where get tied up, straitjacket tied in, and then they would hoist me up, and there's a platform where the guy above me is operating this thing going around the casino. There's no net. It's just strictly the casino.
God.
So he's bringing me around. I told Scott, I said, this is the big one. The entertainment director's there. I got to really put on a show. So I'm going to, don't get freaked out, but I'm going to swing back and forth. Now, my mother and father are in the audience. I mean, I gave my mother more heart attacks. It's amazing she's still alive. So I go up, and I'm swinging back and forth, and all of a sudden, I'm my feet are up in the air, and I look, and I'm like, uh-oh. the rope is slipping. Scott forgot to tie knots.
Oh,
He just wrapped it, because it was a
Oh,
long
my
piece of rope.
God.
So I tell the operator, "Boy, hey, I'm slipping." And he goes, "Okay, okay." And so he started bringing me around faster and then at an angle. And I already had the jacket off, so I throw the jacket. I'm right here next to the stage, and I'm about 10 feet high. I fall, so I go tumbling. I go a forward tumble roll, and I stood up and went like, ta-da! And the place erupted. It was
Oh,
like, oh
my
my God, this
Lord.
is like the great. And then the
I want you to
entertainment
do it
director
7
goes,
times a day
7
and-
days a week.
Yeah,
He goes, I
yeah.
want you to do that. With the broken nose. Yeah, I want you to do that 7 days a week. I'm
Oh,
like,
my-
well, I said we just kind of threw that in for the last thing, but we did it with the just getting out of the straitjacket. But I'll never forget talking to my mother after that. She just like,
Yeah, give her
what,
a heart
what,
attack.
what,
Now, how long did you do magic in Vegas?
Oh, I was off and on in Vegas for many, many years.
Really?
I would fill in for.
Now, were you singing also, or just doing
No,
the
I
magic?
was doing mostly magic
Okay.
then. Jeff Hobson, that performed in Vegas for Harris Spellbound show, I would go in and fill in. But see, during that course of time, I started doing what's called warm-ups on sitcoms. And so I
Okay.
did close to over 20 plus years. My first warm-up show was for Terry Garr, called the show Good and Evil.
Oh,
And
my
it was
goodness.
with her and
I
Margaret
loved her.
Whitten,
Right.
a young Seth Green. And so I was the warm-up comedian that would entertain the audience while they shot the show.
You did it for Friends, too.
I did Friends was
Friends?
I did
9
nine seasons.
Wow,
I did
wow.
season 2 to 10. So that's over 100 and something shows.
Oh, my God.
And that was a tough show.
And why was that?
Well, the writers, if the audience didn't react,
Yeah.
if they kind of went, like there wasn't a big laugh, I would see them go. They'd call it a huddle. They get in this huddle, and they would start rewriting the scene right on the
Right
fly.
there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Now you got to
my-
remember, Friends was like Elvis. It was a
Yes.
frenzy. Everybody wanted to see Friends. We had people lined up outside waiting for somebody to leave
So they could
to,
come in.
to come in. So they would be 45 minutes. I would be doing a show. So it was a show within a show.
Right.
So I had to keep them energy and giveaways, and I would do search for talent. I planted people in the audience. I'd say, "Oh, so you're an entertainer. What kind of stuff do you?" He goes, "Well, I
Right.
play the trumpet." And I said, "Did you bring it with you?" And he goes, "No, I don't have a trumpet." I said, "What if I got a trumpet? Would you be able to play?" So we set it up. It was all set up.
Okay.
So the prop man would bring out a trumpet, and this guy would play because they would shoot 8 hours. Most sitcoms are 3.5, 4 hours at the max.
Wow.
8 hours was our average. I hold the record for the longest warm-up. It was the Thanksgiving show where they're playing football in the park, and that was shot on stage 25. Stage 24 at Warner Brothers was the permanent set of
Right.
Friends. So I marched over the entire audience like a Pied Piper to go see this big scene.
Right.
Well, that took forever. So it was over 11 and a half hours I was warming up an audience. It's like a
Oh.
telethon.
Oh.
It was like amazing. And they played a little practical joke because I was running out of material.
Well, yeah.
So I decided to, it's like 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then I started thinking, okay, I did the straitjacket. Ben Weiss, love him, first AD saw me, saw that I was getting the straitjacket, and so he puts the bell on, which means I got to stop. So I'm sitting in the scene while they're shooting the scene. I'm still in the jacket. Now I'm sweating profusely, and that jacket gets sticky after a while.
Oh.
So finally it goes off the bell. I rip it off, and then I got a nice applause from not only the audience but the crew.
The
They were all
crew.
cracking up because they were on the inside joke. So, as I said, I'm blessed. I've had a wonderful, interesting career.
I'm going to ask you something
Sure.
off the cuff a little bit. Frank Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
You personally feel a kinship to him.
Oh, yes.
What is your feeling that our audience could understand?
He was the best. He was really the best. I mean, there's nobody I mean, yes, Tony Bennett's. There's wonderful singers out there,
Right.
but Frank, in the way you felt every every word he said when he sang,
Right.
you believed him.
And not only that,
it came from the heart.
You thought it was for me.
Yeah,
for him.
yeah.
You-
I mean,
you
when
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, every time there was a song
Yeah.
that he would sing, I thought, okay,
That's
I
me.
relate to. That's
Yeah.
me. He's talking to me. During my Vegas act, I did a comedy bit that I created for warm-ups when I was doing. Actually created it. I can remember exactly. I was doing Burt Reynolds' show, Evening Shade. I did the
Oh,
warm-up one,
okay.
and he had Richard Simmons
Right.
as a guest. So I came up with this crazy thing. I said, okay, Frank Sinatra, Richard Simmons. What am I? Okay, so I say to the audience, I go, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to pay tribute to two of my idols in show business, Mr. Frank Sinatra and Richard Simmons. Now, as I do that, everybody would start laughing. Like, really? So, I tie my own tie. So, I mean, a lot of guys can't even tie a regular tie.
Right.
So I start doing this, and then I put on the fedora, and I lip sync to Frank singing That's Life. That's what people say, riding high in April, shot down May. Well, I shortened it, so when you speed it up, it sounds like Richard Simmons.
That's right.
So I had a breakaway tux, and I broke down with a tank top and sweating with the oldies.
Right.
And I would do, I'm a puppet, a pirate, a poet, a pawn, and a king. I'm up and down and over. So, and I would jump off the stage. And I mean, it was a lot of work.
Right.
And it was like only a 90-second bit. And I roll myself up in a big ball and die, and then collapse on stage. So I do this for Richard Simmons at Evening Shade. Now, if you've ever been to a taping at CBS Radford, the audience is here and the stage is down here. So Richard's like this,
Oh.
watching me.
Right.
And his expression was priceless. And it was like, okay, did he like it or is he really mad at me?
Yeah.
And after the show, he went, God, this is so funny. What a funny bit.
Oh.
And he says, you know what? Come by the house. He gave me his address. I want to give you an official Sweating with the Oldies shirt. I still have that shirt.
I love it.
And so I've kept that in my routine for, oh God, I did that 25, 30 years. And I did it part of the warm-ups.
Isn't that?
So, I would jump into Frank
Right.
quite a bit. He was always in my head.
Now you have a new thing coming out from Netflix though called Ratchet.
Ratchet.
We'd like to know about that.
Ratchet is Michael Douglas is the executive producer,
Ah,
and it's
great.
the character from Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh.
And
Nurse
so
Ratchet.
Nurse Ratchet.
Nurse Ratchet.
Right.
Right. So it's slightly demented. It's
Yeah.
and I have a
Wouldn't be
very
funny,
I have,
yeah.
I have a
Right.
very small part in it. So
Yeah.
I don't want to blow it out of
Okay.
proportion. But it was fun. I got to work with
Okay.
Cynthia Nixon, who's adorable. And I played the maitre d' of the restaurant that I always go to, which it turned out I'd never been to this restaurant in downtown LA. And I love old places.
Right.
Right?
What was the name of it?
Cole's. It's the original French dip sandwich. Was out
Before
Oh.
Philippe's.
before Philippe's in
Oh,
the
my
19
goodness.
really like it's like a Musso Frank's. It's like a early
Right,
1900s.
right.
Institution.
So I went, wow, I got to come down here and do this. So I played the maitre d', and it was him and Vincent. He's
And when
wonderful.
is that? When is it coming out?
It should be out this summer, or
Great.
maybe it's already out. I don't know.
Well, I think our audience is panting to see and hear Frank this afternoon. So
Well,
you
is
know
he-
what?
Is Frank here?
Is he here, right?
Is
Is
he
he
here?
here? Is that ghost
Oh,
around here somewhere?
And one other thing I have to tell our audience. What is the name of your lovely lady?
I'm engaged.
Are you ready?
I'm
Are you
engaged.
ready?
Are you ready for this? Nancy.
I love
First love was Nancy in high school. And I should mention, I was married for 36 years to a lovely lady, Suzanne, who passed away from cancer and MS. And as I always say, she traded up. She went with a much bigger name. She's with the big guy. I can't compete with him.
No.
You know, he gave her a super healing. But Nancy, I met through church. We've known each other for 30 years. She knew my wife.
Oh my.
And because I gave up, I tried internet dating, and I went, oh.
That's a whole other
we
program.
could do a whole show on that one.
Right.
awful. And so Nancy and I have been together, and we're engaged, and we're figuring out when we're going to pull the trigger on getting married.
I
In
love
fact,
it.
I did the engagement at Post 43 in Hollywood
I love
on
it.
New Year's Eve.
Mhm.
I was singing to her and doing Sinatra. She thought I wasn't going to propose. Because I said I was, and then I said I couldn't because I was too nervous.
Right.
So I ended up doing it. So
Oh.
there I was on stage, and I asked her for her hand in marriage. Thank God she said yes.
If I
That would
remember,
have been
yeah.
really embarrassing.
I love it.
If I remember correctly, and please correct me
No,
if I'm not, we did at Post 43 the Fort Chaplain ceremony, and I think that's when you introduced me to her. We had dinner.
Yes,
And
you're right.
Jimmy Weldon
Oh.
and
Jimmy
I,
Weldon, right.
and I think there were
Which
3 or 4 other guys.
I don't know if you knew this, but I'm kind of I'm taking Jimmy's position when Jimmy can't do it as
Okay.
the assistant chaplain.
Oh.
So I
Great.
can, the God Bless America song, and
Right.
Yeah.
when because Donna, who's our chaplain now,
Donna,
is pregnant.
Donna Dufault.
Yeah, and when she pops the baby, she'll
Yeah.
probably miss a couple of meetings, and
Right,
so
right.
they're going to have Frank Sinatra as a
right.
chaplain.
And everyone, I think we're ready to hear Jimmy Bentley do Frank Sinatra.
I like
Be
that.
right back. Hi, everyone. We are back. And I'm back with, I think, Frank Sinatra.
Could
and you
be.
know what? That's all I'm going to say for right now. Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Pink Lady. What a beautiful doll. Maestro, a little music. I've got you under my skin. I've got you deep in the heart of me. So deep in my heart that you're really a part of me. I've got you under my skin. I tried so not to give in, and I said to myself, this affair, it never will go so well. But why should I try to resist when maybe I know damn well that I got you under my skin? I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near, in spite of the warning voice that comes in the night and repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you never can win. Why not use your mentality? Wake up to reality. But each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin. 'Cause I got you under my skin. I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near, in spite of the warning voice comes in the night and repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you never can win. Use your mentality, wake up to reality. But each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin. 'Cause I got you under my skin. And I like you under my skin.
Yes. Oh. Woo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Down to my Mary Janes, baby. Now it's one of my favorite songs from Pal Joey. Maestro, give me a little music. And this is where we're going to close on this one. You got it, baby? Here we go. Yeah, get into it. She gets too hungry for dinner at 8. She loves the theater and never comes late. She'd never bother with anyone she'd hate. That is why the lady is a tramp. Doesn't like crap games with barons and earls. Won't go to Harlem in ermine and pearls. Won't dish the dirt with the rest of the girls. That is why the lady is a tramp. She likes that free, fresh wind in her hair, life without care. She's broke, but it's okay. Hey, it's California. It's cold and it's damp. That's why the lady is a tramp. Yeah. She gets too hungry for dinner at 8. She adores the theater and never comes late. She'd never bother with anyone she'd hate. That is why the lady is a tramp. Doesn't like crap games with Sharpies and frauds. Won't go up to Harlem in Lincoln's or Fords. Won't dish the dirt with the rest of the broads. That is why the lady is a tramp. She likes that free, fresh, cuckoo wind in her hair, life without care. She's broke, but it's okay. Hey, it's California. It's so cold and so damp. That's why the lady. That's why the lady. That's why the lady is a tramp.
Woo! Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, I wasn't gonna throw that. Oh no.
I love it.
I love you because you make me feel so tall.
I know. I do that to all the men in my life. Everyone, I know that you want to invite Frank to your affairs. And how does one, Jim, get to Frank? Where can they call or what email or whatever that you can give them?
Believe it or not, JB Magic.
JV Magic
123 at gmail.com.
123 at gmail.com.
Or my website.
Go ahead.
JimmyBentley.com.
There you go. You got to invite him because we're definitely going to invite you back.
Oh,
and
I would love it.
You can come too.
Oh, okay, great.
It's okay. Frank's
yeah.
here, but you can come too.
Such a doll.
I have to tell you, everyone, this was a delightful experience because, I met you just a little while ago.
Right.
And I knew that you sang and you did Frank and all that, and you had a great personality. And you know what? You proved it today. I love it. God bless you.
God bless
everyone. We
See
will
you.
see you again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mwah. That was fabulous. You are just...
I'm gonna live till I die. I'm gonna laugh